Interesting. Tell you what, Tim's had a big Easter. Easter eating more weight than chocolate.
Mate, yes, and getting a win, mate, it shoots my week. I just let it take.
I've done it, folks. I've finally joined the club speaking through the intro, even though I could hear it. I just had to feel what that was like to do, Tig. So I'm part of the club now. I'm part of the club. How are you, mate?
I'm good, matey. How are you?
Good, thank you. I will just say off the top that CB isn't with us tonight. He is out camping still, so shout out to CB. I'm sure he'll tune in tomorrow on his drive home when he gets the chance. So he's living it up. I believe he had a bottle of tequila the other day while watching the football, so I'm sure he might have a story or two on that when he comes back.
Yeah, let's hope he drives safely, no drinking drive, CB.
No, and he's got his little dog in the car as well, I believe, so I'm sure the dog will keep him company. But how have you been?
Been good, mate. Yeah, been good. It was a pleasant Easter, with the family, which is what Easter's all about. So, just disappointing about the Tigers, but we'll go into that.
It was a bit disappointing.
It's funny, like when the Tigers lose, I can sort of – it's humbling, really. It lets us get a taste of what the Minnows feel, when their sides consistently lose. So it's that's the silver lining.
But
keep humble.
Not just us, but the round in its entirety was a little bit weird.
Oh, fucking mate! After the umpiring fiasco, it was like the Twilight Zone, mate. Look, I wouldn't be surprised if a comet hits the planet on Thursday. That's how weird, fucking out of this world that game was. But yeah, no, it's at the end of the day, we always have a mare, don't we? So we always move on.
Well, yeah, I know we'll talk about it a little bit later, but at the end of the day, no one's expected to win every game of the year. It's just not going to happen. So you just roll with the punches. The only game I want to flag before we push on is Essendon can go get stuffed because they cost me and my mates $400 in a multi-bet. We thought St Kilda were a sure thing to shit on them after they're out. So up yours, Essendon. So I'm sure CB will be happy with them copping a slap even though they won. But we'll push
Gamble
on to
responsibly.
Absolutely.
Gamble responsibly, people.
It was free money. We got the money from a bit of a payout from our gaming online, so we just thought we'd roll it into a multi for a bit of a laugh, and we won 2 or 3 weeks in a row, and then we lost. So it is what it is. But the Tigers, 10-12-72, defeated by Sydney, 17-15, 117 by 45 points. I think we can all agree that Sydney just looked outstanding. They played absolutely unbelievable football for all 4 quarters, and they thoroughly deserved the win.
Yeah, it's look, it's disappointing. Like, we do have shockers, like the Hawthorn game, I think in the corresponding round last year, where we looked like we just didn't even turn up. And then you had the GWS game, funny enough, again in round 3, but the year before that. So, but I could have taken the loss, even how badly we played, if the umpires didn't just put that layer of salt over the top of it. You know what I mean? That's what made this game stand out for me. The way it was officiated, the way it was all completely one way, and to know where it's just not my black and yellow glasses on. I had a mate of mine, Mark, who's a mad Swans supporter, even telling me, we're getting a ride. In the third quarter, he's going, we can't do anything wrong. We're getting an absolute ride. So it was crazy. And apparently someone on our board said the 3 umpires were all from Western Australia.
Oh, okay. Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know if the West Australia's salt.
It's been even just a weird round with umpiring, not even just our game, but it's. I know they've got a tough gig as it is, but you just want to see consistency across the board, I suppose. But I mean, and I don't want listeners to think that that's the reason why we lost. We're 100% not saying that. We got smashed in all facets of the game. It's just
we didn't have a midfield. Bottom line, we didn't have a midfield. They played every midfielder in that game, including our captain, including champs like Edwards, and Prestia can be excused because he pinged his hammy, and we looked good when he was in there, even though we were turning it over like crazy. But yeah, we just turned our tails up. We just couldn't be stuffed in the midfield, and that's why they got, my God, 62 inside 50s. They just penetrated through us at will. And I don't want to jump right into it, but I just want to say I want to defend the defence here. People are overreacting a little bit, saying, our defence is now being caught out because of the new rule. Look at the Swans. Chill pill. First of all, before the game actually started, we had the number 1 rated defence in the league. That's with the new rule, right? Why our defence got split open, and any defence will get split open. Just look at Port. is when your midfield completely applies zero pressure. When your midfield cannot contain or slow down ball movement, and it's not from the marking, because simply they were running, they were just streaming, doing a long bomb and, putting us completely under pressure. And our backs were trying to cover too much space, trying to cover too many holes, and we're getting found out. So that's why we got split open.
Yeah, they see what Sydney did really well is they actually took the time to lower their eyes to hit their targets when going inside 50. They've picked the same bloke out about 5 or 6 times, and when you're watching, you think, why the hell aren't we manning him up? But then you sort of look further down the ground, and like you said, if the midfield and forwards aren't pushing up to apply pressure like we usually do, then it's just easy ball inside 50, and not many teams are going to be able to stop that. Doesn't matter how good or bad you are. So we're probably lucky Buddy didn't play because he might have kicked the bag, but I did feel bad for the defenders. It was a frustrating day for them. But, the end of the day, the engine room just didn't fire a shot. I mean, Bolton probably had his worst game for 2 years, didn't he?
Yeah, he dropped the chest mark. That's not Bolton.
Yeah.
Bolton, you're right. We just, across the board, see, what's the strength of our side is also our biggest weakness. And what I mean by this is we have probably the best 6 players of any side, equal to any side, let's say. Yeah, there's some sides that might have a little bit higher or a little bit less, but we've got really high quality, let's say our top 6. Where our strength is, we've got from 6 down to 22, we've got really evenness about us. We've got, really strong, and we would rate our bottom 6 better than any other bottom 6 in the league. Our problem, though, is when we have across the board, across all lines, too many down at the exact same time, our role players are getting asked to do way too much. And I feel for players like Baker. Now, he's better than just a role player, but he was getting slammed on our board, and it was not justified. He was working his ass off, running up.
I thought he had a reasonable game, to be honest. I mean, all things considered, I thought he played okay.
I agree with you, mate. He was putting his head into contests, trying to block this, and he would make a disposal error or would get caught out in a one-on-one, but it's because he had minimal support. The one that shocked me that had such a bad game that I know Bolton screams out at us, but it was Grimes. Grimes is that dependable, that sturdy. He was a non-entity.
There's a lot of them. There was honestly the only other player I thought who had a reasonably good game was Pickett. Everyone else was kind of just a bit blah.
Yeah, no, Grimes, even when teams are down, he's always the one that tenderly would do. He did a nice couple of spoils, but he was really just... Yeah, so was that coaching from the Swans? Look, and also, let's be fair, everything the Swans did, every bounce of the ball, every hack kick hit a target. Like, they just, let's be truthful. Yes, there was 7 posters. We had enough posters ourselves. But, they would just, and when you're in that zone and everything's working for you, you start running forward of the ball, it was just the worst game that, they were just running above the ground and there was nothing we could do about it. Look, we tried, what was funny, even though we had a shit game and everyone was down, we did have effort though. I'm not sitting there and saying Richmond didn't have that effort. We had 55 tackles. But we were just chasing tail all day. We had no semblance of structure. And look, I love that vision of seeing Hardwick getting the whiteboard out. He knew it was wrong and he could have done a horse. He could have just flooded the deep 50.
Yeah.
He could have done that. Now, he did periods of that where he had Jack or Lynch, but he could have done what Horse did and just flooded everyone back. But he didn't. He tried to challenge the midfielders, and unfortunately Graham and Bolton and the like did not step up. And we were out-coached, I believe. Why on earth would you put Rioli as a medical sub? If you want to send a message and say, hey, you're not – you're getting shots on goal, but you're not doing X and X right, go back in the VFL. He should have put a midfielder in. You always like it to be a big midfielder has got a bit of a tank. Can never go wrong with that. We put in Rioli, and Rioli really didn't do anything either.
No, the other thing that stood out too, you mentioned the tackles. Sydney having 38, I thought was quite remarkable given the pressure they put us under. But we just couldn't. It looked like we just couldn't stick a tackle. They were bursting through and getting through our blokes far too easily. But I feel like that's something that's easily rectified. Your thoughts on Egg's game, the $1 million question that sort of took Twitter by storm, I suppose.
Yeah, look, I posted during the thing, and I hate potting a kid. Look, but my thoughts are, I said last year I don't think he can make it because he's too one-sided. His He's got a lot of talent, but he's got no footy IQ. You know, when you see a person that has to make that 2-second decision where a person with footy IQ makes it instantly, that's his problem. So if he gets the ball or if he's going to go, people were calling him soft, and I don't think it's that. I don't think he's soft. I just think he has to make that decision. So he sees a contest, actually before the contest happens, but the play's coming towards him. An instinctive footballer would know, okay, I've got to quickly run here because 9 times out of 10, that's where the ball's going to hit and there's going to be a pack and I want to go in there and impact that contest. And goes, right? So gets there on time. What Egg does, he sits there and he fucking thinks about it for a minute, a second or two. And by that stage, it's too late. He's got to be fed the ball to do something. He's like a player that's never played football before. Now, you could get away with it in the juniors because of the way the juniors are structured. And I think because his skill ceiling is really high, because I've seen him do some freaky shit in training and in the VFL, you know, particularly by foot.
Yeah.
But because he's got that lag, I thought, nah, he's not going to make it. And not having only having one side of his body that he uses everything with, he can't kick on the other side. So, and he just showed it again. He just, you know, when everyone was down, no one was there to protect him or feed him. And he became a non-entity.
Yeah, we could have put a better player in, I feel. But, I mean, you don't want to put the whole thing on Egg. It's not all his fault. He's one of many who had a bad game. But the other player, or the other moment, I think, I'll speak on quickly before we push on, was the start of the third quarter. You regroup at halftime, you think, shit, we can come out. And every supporter would have been thinking, if we can get the first couple of goals, we'll work our way back into it. Then to see Caddy give away that stupid push in the back free kick to Parker, I think it was, and then the 50 metres, that was just really deflating, and we were never coming back from that. I was really disappointed in those actions when the start of that second half was a perfect chance for us to reset and to have a crack at it.
100% agree with you, but that was probably the softest 50 I've ever seen in my life, and Reid actually did that multiple times and never got pinged for it. So that's, for me, is Caddy shouldn't have done. He's too experienced to do it, and he knew. Right,
yeah, 100% knew. Yeah.
And he was probably fired up to, you know, show leadership by being a bit more physical and got sucked in. But it was, the umpiring was so farcical by that stage, in the sense that there was a period just before halftime where we kicked 3 goals in a row. And I think I tweeted, oh, we're coming. This is it. You could feel it, right? Yep, we're turning the corner. We're still spraying our disposal everywhere, but we're getting there. And then and the free kicks again started getting pinged and pinged and pinged and pinged, or non-calls where we did a tackle, spin the midfielder 360, no holding the ball, all that sort of stuff. And, yeah, they probably just thought, okay, let's fight our way out of it, and Caddy just did it the wrong way, and we got penalised for it. But, yeah, what turned for me was Nankervis's non-mark. That was it for me. Yeah, but not only the once. It was like the umpires go, okay, I know Tiger 71's watching this. Let's really fuck him over. Let's do it 2 times. When Nank then gets a mark in the defensive 50, right? And actually, again, no, sorry, the other side of our forward 50 takes a mark, and then Reid just knocks it out of his hand. The umpire calls it a mark, and then Reid laughingly kicks the ball away from Nankervis.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a free kick. It wasn't a 50.
Yeah, and that defensive one, though, that was a killer. I was gobsmacked by that, as were, I think, most of the footy world, not just Richmond supporters. But
I still cannot believe it. And then straight after that play, then Reid takes Nankervis's legs out from under him, play on, and then the ball goes to where McIntosh, you know, nothing against Rampy. He did what any footballer would do. He went in low. I think McIntosh, I've watched that incident a couple of times, lost his footing slightly. So he was a bit unbalanced, and then he collided into Rampy. Rampy did nothing wrong.
No, it was just a footy contest.
He didn't impede Rampy. He did not trip Rampy.
No.
He did not take Rampy's legs out.
No, it
and
was
what does the umpire do? The spirit of the game? Because how the game was officiated? Let's just ping McIntosh while he's unconscious on the ground for taking the legs out, and they get another goal from it. They got 7 goals. Right? They got 7 goals from direct free kicks, or free kicks that led to goals. That's inexcusable. That was just if I didn't know any better, if I was a pessimist, ladies and gentlemen, I'd be saying this is Hocking sitting there laughing because not only did the team, the darling side of the AFL at the moment, which is the Swans, get their win, Geelong now has benefited 1-2 games directly off the back of umpires. They lost that shocking free kick, and then they got another one early on in the Hawks game that was not a free that related to a goal. And how much did they win by? Another point.
Yeah.
So shocking. Oh well.
I do want to give a shout out before we move on to Rampy for being extremely sportsmanlike and staying with Camden McIntosh while he was down the ground. Like, everyone knew that was just a genuine footy challenge. And unfortunately, those things happen. Unfortunately, people get injured. But for him to ignore the play going on and to stay with Camden and call for help, I thought was a fantastic thing to see. So well done to Dane Rampy for being a good sport there.
Can I ask you a question? Do you believe Dimmer when he mentioned with Koch with the ice on his hamstrings that it was precautionary?
Well, I had written down here that Koch had hamstring issues, but then I saw today that apparently he's a good chance to play now. I don't know if that was according to Hardwick or someone at the club. But to be honest, I didn't even know he went off. So
apparently he played 65% of game time.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, that would explain why we probably got smashed a bit more in the midfield than usual.
Worry. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
If he was off and Presti was off, it definitely adds some weight. My
worry is that he hasn't. Now, again, I give good mail, and I give mail that I don't like giving, right? Guys, what I've promised you guys. But what I've heard is that a lot of our players, the majority of our players came back in peak physical condition. Cochin's had a bit of an interrupted preseason. That's what I've heard, right? Okay. I'm not saying he was lazy or didn't put the work in. But I've heard he's had, he wasn't as physically primed as he normally would be. He needs a lot of work. And that sort of reinforced to me is when your midfield's getting absolutely smashed, they're a non-presence, and your main midfielder, you're keeping on the bench, you're only giving him 65% game time if he's not injured.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so, exactly right.
Yeah.
Hopefully he's okay.
Yeah, hopefully he works into the season because God knows we need him against Port.
100%. All right, we'll push on. Now, you wanted to have a chat to the Tiger Army.
Yes, I did. And what I might do, I might just roll this into the Tiger Den, right?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Because, look, I sort of touched on the umpiring. I just want to nail that. I'm in the Tiger Den now, so I can say it. The umpiring is fucking just like everyone on Twitter that follows me knows that I don't care if frees against are paid against us. I don't care. All I want, all I'm complaining about. If the same free kick happens on the other side, pay it. Just don't pay it one way. That's my biggest bugbear. But now that's all done to bed. But yeah, Tiger heads. Like, I get disappointed as our side's given us 4 years of just fucking heaven, right? And I'm 49, right? So I've seen oceans of shit, right? With a few bright stars like Richo and Matty Knights, Paul Broderick, Swooper and all that sort of stuff coaching us. So I've seen a few, great things to hold me on, but so much shit. And this 4 years is like, I have to pinch myself every morning when I wake up. Is it true? Now, so they've got, whenever we have a mulligan or we have a bad game, we get so many people. There was posts on our boards. Literally, I'll quote it, a line from it. Our forwards are unskilled and lazy. Now, keep in mind, before this game, we had the third best attack. Keep in mind, I reckon, and most neutrals would say, Jack's had a great start to the season. Robbo, or the drunken fool, put down in his take that Lynch has got, slight critique. He marks things one-handed. You know why Robbo is marking things one-handed? It's because he's getting his arms pulled down. He's getting no protection from the umpires, right? So our forward line, yes, always can be better with the amount of inside 50s, but they're not support. In the sense that they're what's the word I'm looking for? The way our game plan is with this new rule and our adjustments that we're still working through on, we're rolling our half forwards really, really high. So they're fighting, outnumbered. And it gets compounded when we're having such a shit game like we had on the weekend. But then people start saying, we've got to rebuild, or, Kocher should retire, Asprey's Deadwood. Mate, they're not Deadwood. They had a shit game.
Just got to calm down.
Just calm down. We're still well in the 8. For us, this is all I'll say. We might lose. What I've sort of said at the start of the year when we were sort of talking about the season coming, by round 7, as long as we're 4-3 or 3-4, I would be sitting with a smile.
Oh, 100%.
Right? By round 12, as long as we're 7-5, or 6-6, or 5-7, as long as we're around about that, I'd be sitting happy, because we don't click into gear till after the bye. We've shown that. And the reason why we do that at the moment, and this has been compounded, I know this is fact, our training is a lot more intense than clubs that haven't played finals, or, West Coast and that, this excludes the sides that finished the first week of finals. They're basically like a non-finalist in their pre-season. But the ones like affected, like us, like Port, like Sydney, like Geelong, we've all started patchy. We all started like we got all bits. Our skills are being a little bit off. And anyone that's played a sport like AFL, amateur or whatever, when you're doing heavy training loads, it affects your skills. It does, because you're either working on endurance or repeat sprinting or whatever it is, and you're knackered.
And we saw this same trend last year, and I remember we spoke about it last year on the show, because everyone was like, well, why are we so sluggish, and why did Hawthorn smash us? And there was someone else who touched us up as well, but that was why. And to sort of add to what you were saying, and I tweeted this out in my tweet post-game, is not to stress about it, because we lost to GWS by 40 points plus in round 3 2019. We lost to the Hawks by 30 plus last year in round 3. And those years turned out pretty okay for us. So people are jumping at shadows a bit, aren't they?
They are, buddy. They are. And we're better than that, guys. Just, sit back, have a drink and realise you're following an elite side with an elite coach. And if people seriously believe that we will not acclimatise to this rule, we will not have systems in place to make us still, the tip of the spear, you're deluded. You know what I mean? And I mean that with all respect.
Yeah. And as a few people said on Facebook as well, it's nice to now be in a position where we can lose games like this, and there is perspective to be had, and it's not all doom and gloom, whereas pre-2017 it was alarm bells ringing, the wheels are falling off, and it was justifiable. Season over type stuff. But it
was justifiable, but now it's not.
You got to back the boys in, and they'll 100% bounce back from that. Having said that, I don't know if it'll be this week coming, which we'll touch on later, but it's a tough game. But like you said, if we can sort of be breaking even or be just ahead of the ledger come the break, we'll be fine. And I wouldn't be at all shocked if internally the club aren't too phased if we lose a couple of early games, knowing about the extra miles in the legs and things like that. They 100% plan to be running at their best from the back half of the season. So.
And I reckon, because I rewatched that game, obviously prior to our show, just to make sure I was right, but Dimmer tried a few different positional moves. I reckon he knew the game was done midway through the third quarter, and he tried a few different things. So
Bolter was up forward, I noticed.
Yeah, so that bodes well. That lets me know that we've got a coaching group that's already thinking of next week. How can we get better? What can we do? One major question that's already answered is we have the cattle, guys. We have the cattle to win a flag. It's not like, we're missing it. We've got the pieces. So, let's just enjoy it. Now, Michael's list of questions. Do you want to go on to that? I've got a question for you.
Yeah, go for it. Let's do it.
Yeah, Jill Fitzsimmons. This is the question, right? Has the loss of a key coaching support impacted us, and did the Heat play a role in unravelling us, given we played late into last year? Thanks, guys.
It definitely isn't ideal to lose Lepic and McRae. They're both very, very good coaches that were a huge part of our success. But you sort of feel like, same as when Carousel left, that they've imparted enough knowledge and the group's mature enough to retain that and sort of get on with it. So I don't think it's going to impact us too much. The Heat, I think it would have played a part against both teams, to be honest. I mean, keeping in mind this was the second day game I think we've played in a year and a bit. So it was pretty hot out there. And it's not an excuse. It's not why we lost, but it definitely wouldn't have helped, especially if we are training a bit harder than usual. So, but I wouldn't be too concerned about the coaching support. I think we've got a pretty good crew up there, and they'll get their stuff together and get the boys sorted. One for you from Stefan M. Tiggs. Do you guys think either of Martin or RCD will debut this Friday night?
Well, look, I reckon Will Martin will. He had 24 disposals, 11 handball receives. Is that what HR is? handball receives. He kicked the goal, I think. 4 tackles, 4 inside 50s. So I reckon, he's done enough to warrant a spot. But there's also another one, guys. Now, my boy, Patrick Naish, 39 disposals. Yeah, 15 handball receives. So it shows he's running there. 8 inside 50s, 6 rebound 50s. So he's playing in the back half and he's pushing up. He's showing that aggressive run. Port's a perfect game for him. I reckon it's going to be Martin and Naish. RCD, no. I don't think so. And I'm a bit concerned.
Okay. I read that he did some good things in the VFL, but obviously didn't amass numbers, but it sounded like
he's just not ready yet. Look, people develop differently, and I judge him as a medium, but maybe I should be judging him as a tall because of his, the way his body is.
He's a bit of a unique build, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. So I'm not saying I'm concerned that I don't think he won't be an AFL player. I'm just concerned that his development time is going to take too long to still be on our list. He might be on a different list.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, we've got a great draft hand this year. We've got other kids we drafted last year. Nothing stays still.
Fair enough.
Michaels, this is from Katarina. I keep on saying, is that Corona? I was going to say
Catriona.
Catriona. I'm going to go to Katarina. There you go, you're Spanish. Hola. How do we reset our midfield now that pressure will be missing a significant period of time? Does the loss of Loston for a significant period of time also impact how we set up?
The midfield side of things we'll probably touch on with the ins and outs, but the short answer is when he missed football last year, it allowed someone else to step up. So I'm hoping the same thing happens again. It gives those young guys a chance to really sort of put their hand up to demand a spot in the team. So we'll talk about that a bit later. The Vloston one, that's starting to hurt, I reckon, to find out that he is now going to miss another month of football, maybe more. Firstly, shout out to the dickhead journos who said we were being tactical, subbing him out. Just his organisational skills and his ability to cover and come off his man and impact the contest, I think we really missed that because it's something, I don't know, just the cohesion that they have down there when he's there is just so much more powerful. So he is a huge loss, make no mistake about it. But hopefully we get him back sooner rather than later. But at the same time, we all know we're not going to rush him back because we err on the side of caution, which is always a good thing. One for you, Tiggs, from Michael McKenna. Why do Richmond, this kind of touched on what you sort of said earlier, why do Richmond supporters catastrophise, I've probably butchered that, any loss? Last I remember, a Tiger BigFooty mod calling a round 4 game as a season-defining game. It's just one loss. It was bloody hot against a red-hot side. No luck with umps and injuries. Toughen up. We're a great side. Yeah,
just agree with you, mate. I've sort of answered it. Michael, you're the same. We are a great side. Keep the belief. People that don't, they're just they're the type of people, and I mean this with respect, but when their car doesn't start once, they sell it because they think it's a lemon. And it could be because they've got no petrol in the car. And that's it.
But no, we'll be right, Michael. We'll be right. I want to know who the mod was. If you can tweet me through, I'm saying it's Sturge. That's my prediction. But let me know. It might have been me. You might have made me look like a real dickhead then. But let me know.
Yeah, no, it probably was Sturge. He's a bit of a guy. No, I love you, Sturge. I'm only joking. Okay, PT Ager. This question here, Michaels. While we're going to make finals, is it worth maybe not getting the three-peat if it meant we blooded some of the young talent we stockpiled and had a bit of a mini refresh so the era is extended?
No, we need the salt to flow dramatically from all the supporters around the country. I think we can do both. The two things you've mentioned can live side by side. It takes a bit of juggling, but injuries like you see to Prestia and McIntosh and potentially Cochin's probably going to miss games at some point to manage him. Those kind of things are going to allow the young kids to come in and keep it fresh, which I feel like is what we've done throughout the previous years as well. So I think the two things can live side by side, and I think in order to keep our window open, we have to do it. But I don't think we should go for a full-blown mini refresh or rebuild. I think we're still in a strong position, and just keep putting the kids in when the time's right and keep everything exciting. Huge thanks to all the listeners as well for sending in questions. We really appreciate it. Before we get on to the preview, we do have to give a happy birthday shout-out to Lee Williamson, who's a long-time listener. She loves the show. Now, she asked for a birthday present from you, Tiggs. And
yes, and I've got it here.
When it wasn't leather pants, it was just a bit of information. So what have you got for Lee? And happy birthday again, Lee. Thank you for your support as always.
Lee, first, happy birthday, mate. You're a trooper. I've DM'd you the dick pic, so, just going to be happy with that. You also asked me to sing you happy birthday, but look, listen.
I asked that, and that was declined.
Yeah, she declined it to you, but really, she just loves my voice. No, I'm only joking. The one that we've been into now, there's been sort of noise about him last year. There's a bit of noise about him this year. I had a really, really good chat with a mate of mine who knows these things, obviously because of Easter. And I asked him, I said, mate, who do you think 100% we're right into? That and he's told me a name. It's number 12 for GWS Giants. It's Tom Green. Dimmer loves him. Most of the recruiters love him. He's going to be hard to pry out, but he's got a bit of he's not meshing as well in the GWS system as this is what we hope from the noise is correct, that GWS would hope, which is strange because he's like number 4 in total contested possession. His stats are pretty good and compare about how many games he's played, so his averages. He's just not being, I don't know, he's probably plateauing a little bit.
I've got an observation on this, and this is interesting because I'm glad you said it was him because I didn't know that you were going to say his name until tonight, just so people know for clarity. But I knew you were going to be bringing it up because of the tweet, and I was talking to a mate about it today, and we both said we hope it's Green. And he made a point of saying that in the game that was just played, the Giants had, I think, Caniglio was off, I think De Boer was off, so 2 midfielders, and they still weren't playing Green in the guts. They were playing him up forward, and it just sort of felt like he was playing a little bit out of position, and we kind of floated the idea, have they heard something, or do they know that he may be not as interested as they think?
Well, look, who knows? All I know is that we want him as a midfielder.
100% you would.
Yeah, we see him as a midfielder. And now, the strong mail that I've got is with the draft, we have put a lot of work, a good 2 years of work to get the draft hand that we've got, right? We've got Geelong's first, which is great. But I have no doubt if Geelong's first, if we can give that to Green, or, with whatever mix of potatoes, but as a core as that pick, would probably do it. It might be swapping around or whatever it is, if we can get him. He will fit our cap. That's the other thing too. The cap goes up again, I think, this off-season. Okay. So don't quote me on it, but I think I'm right on that. I just haven't confirmed it with my mate. But from last year, I gave me the impression that this year it goes up slightly. So we've got cap space. We'll probably have a retiree at the end of this year, and I don't think it's Koch. Just to nail that down. So, look, we will have cap. He won't cost that much, but he's a Richmond man, and Dimmer loves him. Just put it that way.
That's good. Very good to hear. I said this on the show a while ago when we were sort of working out who was going to get our last list spot. I really thought we were going to give it to his brother as a bit of bait to get him over. Maybe we sign him at the mid-season draft potentially, but we'll see what happens there. So just to clarify, folks, Tiggs isn't saying that Green is 100% coming across. He's saying that we are showing heavy interest and are trying to get him across. So
I could tell you this. What I'll tell you is it might not break this year if it doesn't happen, but it will definitely break that we ask the question to Green. And it's going to be exactly the same as Hartlett. I can guarantee you 100% that we're in Green's management. That is confirmed.
There you go, Lee. That's a cracking birthday present if I've ever seen one. So thanks for that, Tiggs.
Yeah.
All right, Port Adelaide game coming up this Friday night. Both teams are now 2-1, coming off really bad losses, us losing by 45 points to the Swans and Port losing to West Coast by 37 points. Granted, you probably are a bit more okay with that given it was an away game, but the Port have looked pretty good on paper. I know you shouldn't judge things on paper, Tiggs, but they look like a pretty good side. They've added some good quality players. They've added Alir down back, who I was really shattered we didn't have a crack at, and Fantasia or Fantasia, depending on which way BT makes his mind up on calling him, playing up forward, as well as their natural growth of Butters, Rosie, Dersman, Marshall. They've got a few handy plays now. So how do you see this game panning out, and are Port going to trouble us?
Yeah, look, they'll always trouble us because we play a different style and we defend similar. They were the first side in my mind that copied us, parts of our game, particularly the half-forward transition period. But on their recruits, everyone gets sucked in. They played Adelaide twice. Then they had 2 really, really soft kills in North, and I think they had Adelaide again. So Alir is the reason he was traded from Port. Now, he's an intercept defender, but when the ball is pinging in, as West Coast showed, he gets found out. He's not a strong one-on-one defender. So he's more a utility that sort of gets played in defence. I don't think his natural game is in the back line. But anyway, that's just my opinion. Fantasia, for me, he just looks good when the team's up. He's just a full cream type player. So is those two inclusion really improve him? I don't think so. They're organic growth. He's going to feed Butchers, Rosie, Dersma, and Marshall, as you mentioned before. Like for ours is going to be your Bolter, your Boltons. And Ross, for example, and the like from that. So Baker, and as they develop, will develop strongly as well. How I see this game, look, it's a shorter ground. It's their home ground, so it's going to be fucking tough, right? We beat them in a preliminary final. They've just been smacked. They got hammered. Talk about our scoreboard flattering us. The scoreboard really flattered Port Adelaide by the nature of how the game was played. They're going to come out strong as they can, but I actually seriously think we're a sneaky chance to win this. If we, it's all going to come down to selection, mate. If we pick Ross in the side, he needs to play. We need Graham to play in the guts. We need Cochin to play in the guts, and keep our mix of Bolton in the gut. So we need starting midfield of Cochin, Bolton, and Edwards. They're the top three with Graham, Ross, and I'm missing one.
No room for Dusty.
And Dusty. Sorry, that was what I'm missing. They're going to play, those six are going to play predominantly in the midfield. We do that, we will win this game. Our back line, because it's a smaller ground, which is great, our defence we don't have to cover that much space because it is a smaller arc, so we'll be able to repel the rebound like we always generally do. A lot easier than what we did against Sydney. So that should actually help us. Our forwards... if they're on, Jack's in really dangerous form. I reckon we can kick a score. I still don't rate their back line, Port. That's to me, their Achilles heel. They've got great forwards, great midfield, but I reckon we can hold them in the midfield if we set up like I mentioned, and our back line should beat their forward line. And if that happens and we can get a bit of a score on them, look, it's going to be close, but I reckon we're not out of it. Everyone's thinking we're done, but I don't think we're out of it.
So what do we have to do different from last week, besides setup? Is it just an intensity thing? Is it a work rate thing? Because, for large parts of the game against the Swans, we had that midfield lineup in there. We were getting smashed to pieces. So what else do we have to change for that to start benefiting us?
Champions don't like getting humbled too often. So I don't think they went in. Did we smell our own farts? Maybe they smelt their own farts and thought, we can do this, and completely underestimated, the heat. When our disposal just started kicking all over the place, and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, all we have to do differently is just clean up our disposal, play a Richmond brand of football, and we'll be right up to this in our necks. So,
and let's not forget that we've travelled over there with. Mainly a VFL team. Remember that a couple of years ago, and we managed to get the win. So as much as the games end up a little bit even, we actually match up okay against them, and we play the ground quite well. So I'm going to be interested to see how we handle this one. But they're going to be absolutely primed, I reckon, Port. They're going to be dirty as about, not like you said, not only the prelim, but their game against the Eagles. But I just want to see an increase in work rate and intensity. That's my big thing. I just want to see us hunt, get back and help each other, and get back to playing a Richmond brand of footy.
I've got a question for you. You probably just answered it. Where will the game be won and lost, in your opinion?
I think it's going to be won and lost in work rate in the middle. If we get outworked again, I think we're going to be in all sorts, because their mids are quality players. There's no mistake about it. And if we give them free rein, they've got some good forwards down there too. So Robbie Gray, Dixon, you can't allow those guys to get easy ball to them, because there's not much you can do to defend it. So it's going to come down to our midfield and our half forwards being able to work hard enough back to assist like they usually do. And I know you can't do that week in, week out. I get it. It's tough and physical. But if we're any chance to beat Port, we have to limit the amount of easy ball they get. And it also, Nankervis is going to play a big part in this too, which I know we'll touch on shortly. But I thought he got shown up a little bit last week by Hickey, of all bloody people, pushing forward. So we've got to make sure we're on top of that.
Yeah, look, I felt for Nex with that, because he was trying to cover our defenders because we were getting so smashed, and Hickey was just running for the cheap ball. So, but, it's easy. Yeah, but you're right. I've got a question for you in relation to a matchup, if you don't mind. Bolton versus Dixon. What do you reckon?
Going to be awesome, isn't it? I know he had a good game on him in the prelim. I know it was a little bit wet, so it obviously favours the defender a bit more. But pound for pound, Bolter is a big unit, as CB said last week when he saw him up close and personal. So, but the best thing about Bolter's game, and I know it's going to be a very Rance-like comparison, but his closing speed is elite. He can be, a few metres behind the leading player, but his ability to get in those last few steps and get a fist in has been really good. So, I think if we can make sure their midfielders aren't getting easy ball and they do their job, then that's going to let Bolter do his job extremely well. What about you, Tiggs? I've listed a fair few players here, but Butters, Motlop, Gray, and Georgiadis and Fantasia versus Baker, Short, Grimes, Edwards, or Pickett. So the question kind of being, who do we bring in to help guard their quality small forwards? Because their forward 50 pressure has been elite the last few weeks. I think they had 11 tackles inside 50 last week, which is a huge number. How do we combat that?
Yeah, look, listen, we've got the defense. Look, I appreciate that we haven't got Vlostered, and that's going to really hurt us.
Yeah.
But we're going to bring Hooley in. So one of our strengths, which funny enough helps them with their defence, is our defence can be quite offensive and create a lot of forward half change. So that bothers forwards because that means they can't just let the defender run off. So they get him to work. And some of the forwards that hate working is like Motlop hates to work. You know what I mean? So I would put Hooley obviously is in. I would Pickett. He played a great game on the weekend. I loved his endeavour, his work rate. I would put Pickett as in the back line as a last resort, though. That's no disrespect to him. I think he has to be on the wing, particularly with McIntosh not in. I'd probably go, Naish. Here you go, Naish.
Here's a challenge, yeah, okay.
Here's a challenge, Give him one of their young forwards that like to run off up the ground. So Naish has someone that he has to run with, and with a proviso that when you can, run right off him. Be an offensive weapon for us, aka to a Hooley. Look, and also, and you can rotate Naish then on the wing. So you can rotate, Naish with Pickett with Naish, and give us that, continual motion and say on the right side flank. But that's what I would do. I reckon we've already got the defenders to match up well on them anyway. But yeah, we just got to do something different, maybe someone like a Naish or a Pickett.
I agree with you about. I think that Pickett is definitely more suited to the wing, but it's nice to know that if need be, as you said, as a last resort to get a bit more hardness and aggression down there, you can sort of go back there for small stints.
Ralph Smith is another one. I like what I've seen with him. I wouldn't go Garthwaite because obviously we don't need to replace at all. We really need a medium type to support Broad.
Yeah.
Broad copped a bit on the weekend. I thought it was unfair. He just tried. He played a Broad game. He rarely ever has a bad game. He didn't dip at all. But yeah, we really need, like Ralph Smith, I wouldn't mind seeing if we don't go the Pickett with Naish route. Naish has to come in my mind, in a wing to replace Macca. He has to.
Fair enough.
For you, mate. Ali versus Tom Lynch.
This will be an interesting one because I might be a bit harsh in saying this, but Lynchy hasn't been firing many shots so far this year. I know he's usually a little bit slower to work into it, but I'm really looking for him to sort of step up and create a bit more presence. Jack's doing a power of work. His work rate's phenomenal. Lynchy does work hard, but I want to see him just clunk a few more grabs. And kind of what you alluded to earlier, that Aaliyah is a good intercept player, but if we can kind of get him isolated and make him play man on man, I'd love to see Tom Lynch get a couple of goals early, just for his confidence and to make Aaliyah more accountable, just to kind of prevent the running off and intercept marking. So, huge job for Lynch. I just hope he can be aggressive without stepping over that line and take the game on. And the last one for you, which we kind of touched on, Lysette versus Nankervis. It's going to be a huge matchup which could dictate a large chunk of the game.
Yeah, look, Lysette is a good quality ruckman. Look, Nankervis, in the last time we played them, played beautifully, played off him a lot to support our defence. I think he's going to need to do that again. I think our defenders are going to be aware what Nank role should be is to tap, and then you basically stay defensive side of the square to our defensive 50. That way, if Lysette tries to move forward into our forward 50, Nank will naturally just match up on him. But Nank's a great, beautiful mark, particularly a pressure mark. So we're going to need that because Port will come out firing. So I'm not really worried too about the taps. I know Nankervis will outwork Lysette, around the ground, but I think Nank's role will change a bit. Instead of being more of a mid type, help support the mid, help support our back line, which needs it with the outs that we have.
Yeah, it's going to be pivotal. Before I let you get to the ins and outs, we will just touch on the VFL guys quickly and just go through some stats because it kind of all ties in. We knocked off Collingwood in a late comeback I think we're behind at 3/4 time, and the boys come home really strong. Ross had 21 disposals, Nash 39, as you said earlier. Will Martin 24, Basher Hooley 22, Ralph Smith 24, and Garthwaite 18. So spreading the love a bit. It sounds like Samson Ryan's having some good form as well with some goals. I think RCD kicked a goal, but good to see some of the players on our list getting some possessions. And with that, where do you see our ins and outs happening?
Well, are we going to assume Cochin's playing or Cochin's out?
Well, based on what kind of come through today, I think we assume he is playing, but with an open mind that he might be a late change, so I know it doesn't really help. But I reckon we go with his playing for the time being.
Okay. Ross has to come in. We're just taking the piss. We're taking the piss. If it ever comes down to a decision, do we play Ross or Marlon Pickett, it has to be Ross. Just solely for the fact Ross is the future, Marlon isn't. That sounds really brutal and harsh.
It's true though.
But Marlon's and I think 30 next year, I think, or 30 this year. So
yeah, and I read from the report from the VFL that Ross was apparently just a bull at the gate, just smashing into contest after contest, just really wanting to prove a point and get into this senior team. So he deserves it. 9
tackles too. He's also lighter. He's shown he can play wing. He has played that role before. So I'm just thinking when all our midfielders come back, like we did with Graham, we found a spot for him. You got to find a spot for Ross. You need it. You never not have enough depth in the midfield if things go wrong. The other one for me, and I know I'm biased, but just for the sake of, Nash is loved around the club, all this sort of stuff. But the big knock on him is his consistency, and the big knock on him is he's never torn a game apart. Right? That's what I've always heard. He looks good, but he hasn't ever just worked and worked and worked and worked. He has periods where he works in games, and then he gets really, really quiet. He has to be rewarded. Apparently in this game, I didn't see it, but from what I got told, he worked his ass off from the beginning to the end. And this was the result. So we need to reinforce that sort of behaviour. So I'd put him in. I'd put him in to replace McIntosh. So for me, Ross comes in as a midfielder to replace Prestia. Nash comes in to replace Macca. And then for me, we've got obviously Vlos in the back line. I got a feeling I want to put Ralph Smith in. I might want to say the short, who's been, in my mind, very pedestrian the past two weeks. I don't know if the best and fairest is... I don't know. I don't see the urgency with Short. His kicking was shit. His kicking was the worst. He was running at 33% with no pressure. He was the person that was doing the kickouts. Right?
Yeah, he didn't have a good one with the
He had a bad one. And I think this is perfect at his time. He's already signed, so he won't chuck the shits. But to say to him, you know what? You had such a fucking disgusting game. You're out.
Big call.
Ralph, you're in. We'll do it. But look, it's round 4. At the end of the day, this is what I love about our coach and our coaching committee. They will shock the team. I don't care if you lose the next couple of games. I seriously don't. As long as we reinforce the message, reinforce what we're about, and that's what serves us when, June, July, August, the grind starts to happen.
Yeah.
So I would even do that. But if they don't, just do the 2 changes for me. Just Ross and Nash will come in.
Well, and I think the other one, and I think Basher Hooley will come in, like you mentioned earlier, probably for Egg Molessi Smith. I think that's a pretty straightforward spot.
Yeah, Egg's gone.
And so,
I never want to see Egg again. I never want to see it again.
I'd agree with those 3 changes. Going to be a tough game, but we're the kind of team that loves it with the back against the wall type stuff. So all we want is just a better effort than last week. And if we know we bring anywhere near our best game, we'll be more than half a chance to win. So
one thing I didn't mention for the medical sub, Rioli has to be dropped. He just dropped. Just drop him to the VFL. Give him a good month there. And then if we can't fit Ralph Smith in on the starting team, put him as the medical sub.
Yeah, or Martin. Will Martin. Either one of those two.
Or Will Martin. Either or. Yeah. I like Ralph Smith because in my mind he's more of an offensive weapon. He's more an offensive, particularly in the back, and the ball's going to be in our defensive 50 a fair bit. And it's shorter ground. But Will Martin, you can't go wrong. Both of these boys.
It's exciting.
But do we need another midfielder? See, for me, Will Martin's more of a midfieldish type, whereas Smith's more defensive. And I like Ralph Smith. You know why I love him? You know what? I'll tell you. He runs. 13 handball receives. It's amazing.
It's a Richmond trait. We love a good runner.
He plays our game plan, and that's what the message will be this week. Back to the Richmond game plan.
Yeah,
run the
100%.
Way. And then reinforce that.
All right, with that said, Tiggs, what's your prediction and margin for this game?
Fuck me. Yeah, my head and heart both tell me Richmond by 6 points. I reckon it's going to be like a repeat of the preliminary final.
I hope you're right. I'm committing the cardinal sin of picking the opposition on a Richmond podcast. Right. I just think Port aren't going to want to let this one drop, and I reckon they might get up by about 12 or 13 points. But I equally won't be shocked if we come out and win. It's going to be a ripper contest, I reckon.
It's a flip of the coin, really.
It is a genuine 50-50 with both teams got something to prove, both teams coming off shit games. It's going to be a cracker. I reckon it'll be pretty fiery, actually.
I just hope Richmond this week has done what other clubs do, complain to the umpiring department. Like full on, what fuck happened here? Here's the tape, explain, where they start saying, yeah, we were wrong, yeah, this was a mistake, yeah, this was a mistake. And then, when we get umpired in Port, always that happens. They would know, okay, you got shafted last week. We're not going to be so on you this week. That always happens. People say it doesn't. I believe it does. So if we get an even crack in the umpiring department, I reckon we'll win. If we get another Swans performance, we're done.
Hopefully we don't leave it to chance with those things. We take matters into our own hands. But Craig, should be a good game. And at this stage, folks, I don't think there'll be a live show on Friday. It's just a bit too hard for me with the young fellas' bedtime and whatnot. But I will be eagerly awaiting the AFL to release the next lot of fixturing. So anytime there's an away game that's a day game, I reckon will be half a chance for a live show for some commentary and a bit of laughs along the way. So keep an eye out for that. We'll definitely keep you all posted. But
and on that, guys, we really want to do it. So if we don't do it this Friday, don't be disheartened. Michael's, CB and myself, we're doing a lot of work. We've all got families. We're all, all doing, we've all got lives. But we definitely want to do this because I personally love doing it.
Yeah, I love it too. It's just 100% a timing thing and making sure it doesn't impact our own lives too much. But whenever we have a day game that's away, whether that's interstate or just an away game in Melbourne, I'll be more than happy to jump on and do a live call with you and CB if he's available as well. So keep an eye out, folks. It will be happening at some stage and we'll keep you in the loop. But thanks for jumping on tonight, Tiggs. Much appreciated. And hopefully we're back on next week with CB and a win under our belt against Port would be nice to come back and speak about.
And I'll be CB and say my goodbye like CB would. Thank you, mother, for the rabbits.
Until next time, go Tigers.